User Group. Today we have Ibrahim Mboji presenting for us. Ibrahim Mboji will be talking on how you can keep your AVD environment secure. He's based in France. And welcome, and thanks for being here and to be a part of, to contribute to Azure Nigeria User Group. Yeah, Ibrahima, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Hi, CJ. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Today we will talk about AVD and how to keep it secure and cost effective. Let's talk about. So I'm Ibrahim Mboji. I am a cloud architect at Avanade. I'm a mobile technology and cloud and mobile technology enthusiast. I have about 10 years of experience in ICT, and my work and interests are Azure, IaaS, platform as a service, IAM, governance, cybersecurity, and a little bit DevSecOps. So I am also a Microsoft MVP and MCT. So I work a lot in technical community groups, sharing my knowledge, learning from other people, and happy to be here again to share you some stuff about AVD. So what you will have in this session. What you will have in this session, it will be some concepts, reminder of some AVD concepts. We will talk about design and architecture, of course, security, and also cost management. Yeah. So AVD is a virtualization technology that allow us to deliver mono and multi-session experience in Azure. So currently, you can deploy Windows 10, Windows 11, and some legacy Windows version. But you can also use some Windows Server version. It enables optimization for Microsoft 365 application and allow us also to migrate from remote desktop services. The deployment and the scalability is optimized. We are in Azure, so it's a good service for hosting VDI since the COVID, let's say the pandemic. We have many clients that need to be hosted in Azure in terms of VDI. So AVD currently is a very good solution for doing that. Even if there are also some other technologies like VMware or Citrix Cloud. There are also some technologies like Windows 365, aka the Cloud PC, that will also provide some user session. But to deliver a multi-session experience, you need to have your AVD. Right? So like I said, it enables the multi-session Windows 10 and Windows 11. You can have support for Windows Server, and some legacy Windows like Windows 7. So, of course, you will leverage all the security features that are in Microsoft 365. That's why it's interesting in terms of licensing, but in terms of reusability of some feature like the security feature. So what do you need to start? So you need a subscription. So if you don't have subscription to test, you can have a free trial for 30 days, I think, and you can quickly deploy your AVD environment. So we will talk about identities, but in fact, once you have your subscription, you have your Azure Active Directory tenant. You need to determine your identity strategy, whether there is an Active Directory infrastructure or Azure Active Directory domain services infrastructure, because you need to add in addition to Azure Active Directory, local identity provider. So all the associated Azure resources you need to have in one region, like images, virtual network, storage. In terms of scalability, you can use one or more subscription. It will depend on your scenario, on your use case. But for example, if it's basic test or proof of concept, you can use one subscription. But like I said, you need Azure AD, and your virtual machine need to be AD domain join account. You can still use Azure AD without any Active Directory or AAD DS, but in this case, that means that you will not have persistence. You don't have to manage the profile, because it's not possible to use persistence with only Azure Active Directory. Yeah. Most of the customers are already eligible for AVD, because most of the customers are already either Windows 10 or Microsoft 365 licenses. So it's pretty easy to deploy, because like I said, most of the clients have already what they need. In case of use of server, Windows Server, you need an RDS CL license and an active software assurance. But for most of the use case, we use either Windows 10 or Windows 11, and not necessarily Windows Server. So let's talk about design and architecture. So it's a shared responsibility. You can see that there are some resources and SaaS services that are managed by Microsoft, but other services are managed by the customer. In fact, the control plane that is here, it's managed by Microsoft. So the management or the client interacts with the planning, diagnosis, etc. but the customer need to have the compute, so the virtual machine, the storage, it can be Azure file or Azure NetApp files, and the customer need to build the networking. On top of that, the customer needs to manage the image, the app, the profile management, the scaling policy, the user management and identity, and even the network. So for hybrid scenario, you have sometimes either express route to connect your on-premise workloads, or VPN. It can be site-to-site VPN. So it, of course, integrates with either System Center Configuration Manager, but this one is a legacy. Most of the time, use Microsoft Intune, and you can also use Microsoft Endpoint Manager. So in terms of sizing, you have this slide come from Microsoft. You have some recommendation depending, in fact, on your scenario. Your scenario might be either, for example, you have light workload type. It means you don't have any GPU, any application that needs high performance. You can have medium, you can have heavy workloads, and you can have poor workloads that need certain, let's say, a type of CPU or RAM, etc. So of course, you go with the recommendation if you have anything, but for example, if you are on a migration, you will look at the performance inside, for example. You can look also at if you have Citrix on-prem, you can look at the monitoring logs, some insight about how the resources are consumed, etc. And you will adjust after that. So like already said, you need for hybrid connectivity, you need at least some express route or site-to-site VPN. Also, if you don't have an Active Directory infrastructure, if you want to have to manage the user profile, adding some persistence in the profiles, you need at least Azure AD domain services, but also you can create your own Active Directory on Azure, yes, based, and you go open. So once you have your Active Directory, you need, of course, Azure AD Connect to synchronize your identities. So it works both on Azure AD domain services, but also in Active Directory. The only use case that you don't have Azure AD Connect, it's when you use Azure Active Directory directly. So what you need to know is AVD session host are regular virtual machines. There is no difference between AVD session host and Azure virtual machines. So they have the same vulnerability. and you need, of course, to have a patch management strategy. And both in, let's say, in the image template, but also in sessions. So in Azure, you can use Azure management, update management, sorry. Also, you can use Intune to manage the updates. So for the profile management, I'm assuming that, for example, you have AADDS or ADDS, Active Directory Domain Services. So you can manage the profile, the user profile with the profile container. So the technology is FS Logic. You can also use Cloud Cache. We can have many, let's say, many benefits about that. So, for example, you have extremely fast login time. It also helps to eliminate profile corruption. You can use native Windows VHD capability. Also, it's easy to deploy and manage, and it's a seamless end user experience. So for Cloud Cache, it absorbs the reads and optimized writes in cost-effective payloads. So there are also many benefits for Cloud Cache, but it will depend on the let's say the use case. So the preferred technology to use for profile management is of course SSD. So the profile is stored in VHD or VHDX. It's the same approach used by UPD, and the idea is the VHD is mounted at the login. That's why it provides a faster login and no target storage requirement. So here also you have profile container that redirects everything from the user profile. You can also let's say broad application support, and you can have also additional option from FS Logic. So the approach here for security is security by design. That it means that you will implement the Microsoft Zero Trust pillar. So you have in one hand your network, your infrastructure and endpoints, your application and data, the identity. And here you have the core monitoring services. This is an extract from the architecture center. So I will provide the link, and you can also download the video diagram if you. But here the concept is, for example, for networking, you have some public-facing application, for example. It's a global, it's for global architecture. It's not limited to VGI. You have VGI here, but here I'm assuming that you will not deploy AVD just in an isolated or let's say in a standalone infrastructure. You will integrate it to an existing or for greenfield deployment on a global infrastructure. So you need to protect before protecting the endpoint, like the virtual machines. You need to protect first your network, and you have the mapping for micro attack framework here on the So you have some type of example of attacks that you can have here. For example, you can have phishing, malware installed, credential theft, lateral movement, and exfiltration. So most of the time you have either the license, Microsoft E5, for example, licenses that are included. The security features are included in those type of licenses. So most of the time you don't need to have additional cost. So all you need is to deploy your policies and check your design decision. So, for example, for collaboration, for exchange, we need Defender for 365. For computers, either let's say Windows 10 or Windows 11, we use Microsoft Endpoint Manager. For the endpoint security, you can deploy Defender for Endpoint, both on server and client, so Windows 10 or Windows Server 2008, 2012, and later. You will, let's say, use the endpoint detection response solution plus the endpoint platform protection like Windows Defender, and you are good to go for protecting your endpoint. Since you have, let's say, an Active Directory domain services, you can use the sensor for Microsoft Defender for Identity. So it will help to protect your Active Directory infrastructure. So on top of that, you can leverage, let's say, all the Azure AD security features, whether it's the basic or premium. I'm thinking about identity protection, conditional access policies, let's say multi-factor authentication through conditional access policies, privilege identity management, and many other features that you can use to protect the identity. And at the end, the Defender for Cloud Apps that will protect that will sit as your cloud security broker, and you can detect most of the attacks. Use also some alerts, some policies, and in addition to that, you can also have some third-party partners. But here, if you use those solutions, you have a solid, let's say, baseline. So to summarize, what you need to do is not a protection for just your VDI, because your VDI is vulnerable, but your network also. You need to protect all the chains. You need to protect your identity, like we said, with MFR condition access. You need to protect the devices with endpoint protection. You will use protocols and secure protocol and disable legacy protocol. You will use also firewall to add inspection, filtering, and some kind of stuff. So if you need for example, let's say advanced security like HSM, you can use third-party partners, for example, to have customer managed key, for example, in case of encryption. In case of let's say the Microsoft solution is not enough, the platform managed key, for example, is not enough. So here you have some products, native products. So you have Sentinel, you have Defender for Cloud, Azure Active Directory, Key Vault. You can use firewall and DDoS protection, but you can also, like I said, add the third-party partner, especially for network virtual appliances like Fortinet, Palo Alto, etc. So you can have also some insight about human operated ransomware, so that you can check on the. I will send the link for the on the Microsoft cybersecurity architecture. You can see the type of attack depending on the stage. So, for example, RDP with force in the initial access. So this is a pretty classic type of attacks, but you need to take care of all the stages and ensure that all the stages are let's say, protected. So now let's talk about cost. So if you don't have, if you have already the Microsoft 365 and Windows licenses, there is no charge for users. But for example, if you have external users, you can leverage the monthly per user price. I will send the link. But most of the time, the companies or the customers have already the needed licenses. So from user perspective, the cost is not huge. Maybe if you have some external users, it can be consequent, but most of the time, this is not, let's say, the most the great part of the invoice. The virtual machine, depending on the size, you can have some impact here on your invoice. Also, the data disk or the user profile storage can have impact on the cost. Not more than networking. Here, the biggest part of the let's say the cost will be the virtual machine and the storage. And if you have, for example, people that are already using SharePoint and OneDrive, so your storage is pretty much optimized. So like I said, you will pay only for the virtual machine, the storage. Not too much on networking, but you need to consider also what type of traffic is egress. So you need to also that's why you need to use some firewall, for example, to monitor the egress traffic. And for external users, you will use the feature. So now, how do you optimize the cost? So there are multiple, let's say, Azure services that can help to optimize cost. You have policies. The policies, they will deploy some policies to control what should be available for what type of user, for example. You can control what is monitored. You can control what size of virtual machine can be deployed. But also you can have granular policies that can help to let's say to manage your cost. You can use advisor recommendation, for example, on unused workloads, for example, virtual machines. Typically, you use a pricing calculator before you start your project to have an idea on the cost of your virtual machine. Then you will use cost management to add some budget and add some alerts on budget. It will not, let's say, avoid a bigger invoice, but you can have a look on what's going on the usage of. You can use monitor insights to see how it's going on your virtual machine. For example, you will see the usage of CPU, the usage of memory and disk. Check if it's intensively used or not, and based on that, you will adjust, for example, your load balancer algorithm. You can also decide to provide less resources, or you can change your let's say your strategy about how do you provide. I don't talk about the reserve instance. For example, if you have a long-running VM, so VM that cannot be stopped, for example, out of business hours or in the weekend, because they are important. They cannot be stopped. So you can use reserve instances to Azure reservation to reduce the cost. You can see on the pricing calculator, I think it's from 30% to 41, I think. Can be less, but you have a way to reduce the overall cost for long running VMs. If you have some virtual machines that don't need to be kept running on out of business hours, you will use auto scaling. For example, you can combine the auto scaling feature with Start on VM Connect to be able to manage the load, but also you will save costs, since you are paying only if the computer is running. You will still pay for the storage, but you will save costs when the virtual machine are not running. So, like I said, you will review Azure Advisor and Monitor recommendation inside to adjust to your cost management strategy. So I will show something on the portal, because there is no more slides here. Uh, So basically, the deployment is very simplified compared to other versions. So when you have some tenant, for example, but here all you need first your host pool. So in the host pool, you have a collection of let's say session hosts. The session hosts are virtual machines. So virtual machines can be either Windows Windows client or Windows server. So here you can see that I have virtual machine. One is available, another is not available, because I'm pretty sure it's off. So it's stopped. In here, you have some application groups. The application group can be either session remote desktop or also a remote app. So remote app, you will stream only the application, and the remote desktop, you will provide the entire desktop. So what is interesting here is the new feature called scaling plan. The scaling plan will allow you to manage, in fact, the load and also manage also the let's say the cost, because I try to create one. So you can see here, let's say, scaling plan. So the directly. Then you will add a schedule, and here it's interesting because, for example, the weekday schedule, you have the schedule is repeated until Friday, but you can change it, but most of the time it's the client use case. So in the ramp up, you will put an hour in load balancer algorithm. So here, for example, you can have either a bit first load balancing. So here, the bit first load balancing distributes the new user session across all available hosts in the pool. So, for example, if you have 5 session hosts, all the users will be not won't be distributed on, for example, one session host. They will be spread across all the available sessions. If you take depth first, you will have, for example, all the users will be connecting on one session host until the session host reach the limit of number of users. So here you can put depending on your number of your session hosts that you deploy, you can put the minimum percentage of hosts that will be available at 8 a.m., for example, and a capacity threshold. So the capacity threshold will be considered, it's the value that will be considered to evaluate whether to turn on or turn off the virtual machine during the ramp up and peak hours. The peak hours here, so let's say you have users that came to office or are in remote, for example, at the beginning of the day, let's say at the earlier in the morning, and you have, for example, your work should start, for example, let's say at 9. Here you are sure that, for example, most of the people are connected. So you need to have some, let's say, additional hots here. So you need to manage the capacity threshold that so you can be sure that you will have a proper number of sessions here. Then you have the ramp down, and here it's interesting because the ramp down, we are assuming that it's the end of the day, so you can keep default virtual, let's say, settings, but here you can say 0 here, and the effect is it will turn off stop all the virtual machines after 6 p.m. Of course, you will not force the lock-off of users if they are not ready. So you can force the log-off, but you, for example, need to put a delay time and put a message like here, you will be logged off in 30 minutes. Make sure to save you. You are free to increase the time, the delay time, and also you can also choose to not force the log off. So once you have the minimum percentage of us in 0 here, the peak hours will not is not important here because at 6 p.m., let's say at 7 p.m., 6 p.m. plus the 30 minutes delay if there are active sessions, all the virtual machines will be stopped. So I will provide the link. I will also show the other solution because this solution is a new solution. There are some others. So you need to know also the scaling plan is not available on all regions, even it's generally available. So if it's not available on the region you have deployed your resources, you need to use the old solution. The solution, the old solution is an automation account plus logic app, and the script is provided by Microsoft. Let me retrieve it and show you. So here you have the full documentation for scaling plan to manage auto scaling. You can see here the list of area regions that support this feature. So you have some prerequisites here. For example, you need to create some custom roles. You need to assign the custom role to your subscription, and the rest is what I. So once you have created your scaling plan, you assign it to your. Now let me just. So the other solution is here. So you create an Azure automation account. Then you create the logic app and the execution schedule. So it is what is provided by Microsoft. So you don't need to write it from scratch. You just need to provide the and it will do pretty much the same as the scaling, all of the scaling. So this is one is a bit more complex since you have to deal with PowerShell, with logic app, with automation accounts. The other way is more, let's say, it's easier. You can also have the solution like Azure function to push some PowerShell workflow or let's say PowerShell script to start and stop virtual machine based on also on a schedule. So yeah, on top of that, what I can add is, for example, if you have virtual machines that are not, let's say the size of virtual machine is not used, let's say if it's less than, for example, 30% or let's say 40% of CPU or RAM, etc. Maybe you need to consider to reduce the size of the virtual machine. So that's a way of cutting costs, even if it's not a huge impact. But if you do this on, for example, 1,000 VM, it also can save some cost. So that's it for me. If you have question, I'm free to answer. I hope you learn something about AVD, how to manage some security feature and cost management. Thanks.
Do you have any question for Ibrahima? If you don't have any question, Ibrahima, that was a nice presentation. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks. I hope you have a nice day, guys. Enjoy weekend.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye, guys. Ciao.